I always hear from everybody, guys. Nate, how do I make my deck just as cancerous as an evil and disgusting as you? Well, I'm here to show you. First of all, there's a big difference between if you're a new player. If you're a new player, you don't know this. There's a huge difference between decks that are team game orientated and 1v1s. And I'd say the cutoff is 1v1s and 2v2s are kind of the same type of deck builds. Little differences, but in general, I think they're very similar. For 3v3s and 4v4s and 10v10s, it's kind of it's all the same. So, and you can kind of have some variety in builds between them all, and you can kind of it's a lot more nuanced than that. But we're just gonna go over the basics if you're new to the game, and if you're experienced. If you're new to the game, you have like kind of three classes of infantry. You have your CQC, you have your line infantry, and then you have your trash. And then you can consider the fourth group actually to be your leaders. So your line infantry for Germany will be Panzergrenz. For the other side, it'll be Gavardi. Any guys who kind of just have some rifles and an MG, a light machine gun. Your trash infantry will be the disheartened troops, the Ersatz for the Germans. I cannot pronounce the Chernos. I can't pronounce the Russians. I'm sorry. I have no idea how to say it. But they have, you'll see this little disheartened emblem. This disheartened emblem means that they have very low experience. They're just like, they're noobs. They're the noobs of SD. They come in and they just get stomped on. But they're the best because there's a million of them. So they can overwhelm areas because you get 18 of them in A for this deck. And they're really good for supporting, screening, throwing them out to kind of see what the enemy's there. They're only 15 points, super cheap, really efficient. And then you get your pioneers here. These guys have a satchel charge. So when they get into CQC, they're okay at medium range. But when they get into CQC, they can throw this frag grenade. And it's it's like when you go to a Thanksgiving and you say something political and everything just blows up. It's these are the guys who destroy everything and wreck everybody's day. The only way to kind of beat these guys in CQC is to bring flamethrowers, because pioneers cannot throw their satchel charge if they're moving. And flamethrowers, when you get flamed in this game, you decide that you gotta move. And I gotta note something about this because Eugen gods have decided that this is so. When you get flamethrowed by enemy troops, your men, and the brilliance of they're super smart guys. They run towards the flamethrower even closer, and then they surrender. They don't run away; they run closer. So if you note that, you get your line infantry. These guys are just going to be your dudes fighting everywhere. Germans get them, and then they have some units have different anti-tanks. So if you see this emblem, that means they have an anti-tank. So this guy, they have Panzerfaust. So if a tank gets really close, they'll die. Some of them have anti-tank grenades. And then some Panzergrenz, for example, this card has nothing. And you can bring them in different half tracks. I am of the opinion, this is controversial. Actually, I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. You should not bring half tracks in A phase for the most part. I think 50 cal is the exception, but I think for the most part, you should not bring them in A. And here's my theory why. You do not want to bring half tracks in A because you're trying to rush up to the front line as quick as possible to get into those key positions. And half tracks are just too slow to get there. And your income's pretty low in that early phase. But this is different for team games. I'd say that's pretty much true. I'd say that's pretty much true for 1v1s too, in my experience. But other people have different opinions. But my opinion is the only one that matters. You need leaders to give veterancy. You want to vet if you're playing a 1v1 and 2v2. You do not want to vet anything. Don't vet anything if you're playing a team game. Do not. If you're playing Jug and you're running, or 10v10, stop vetting. You're wasting your time. You want more to throw at the wall into the meat grinder to just destroy stuff. So don't do that. Don't bring anything. Move on to the tank tab. Oh yeah, you want to usually have 2 cards at least in A. You want 2 cards maybe in B, and you want like 2 cards to 3 cards in C. And that's like a kind of good thing. You don't want to run out infantry. You'll kind of pick and choose. People play super aggressive. Some people play super passive. So you may want to adjust that a little bit based on what your play style is. There isn't one way to play this game, which is so great. I'm just giving my view. Tanks is a little bit similar. I think you only really need most of the time 1 card of tanks in A, maybe 2 cards in B, and then you want to throw everything in C. For 1v1s and 2v2s, this is the complete opposite. You want the majority of your tanks in A and B, and you want very little in C because you want to win early. And we'll go over incomes another date, but this is just an overall overview. Support tab. Support tabs are super different. They're totally out there. This is going to be based off what you are missing in other tabs. So if you're missing, for example, you don't have a lot of infantry, you may want to bring a whole bunch of MG42s. You don't have enough tanks. Some of these decks get tanks, and so on and so on. So this is up to you. This will be decided. But this deck is super key because it has supplies, has flamethrowers, has MG42s, and it has a commander. And the commander, you can create a command chain. So if you have this guy, so for example, this guy's unvetted. This King Tiger, 0 vet. We didn't vet it. You can vet it if you want, but it has less availability. So what do? You bring a leader. This card then gives one leadership to this Königstiger without it just being in the presence of it. But then you want, hey, I want to make this King Tiger 2 vet. So you bring in SVW222 Commander. He'll come out and he gets certain range, and he can create like a spider web of command chains, giving huge veterancy. And veterancy does huge stuff for you. Just helps you out significantly. Then we go to the AT tab. You kind of want some light AT. You definitely want light AT in A phase because that's where the lighter vehicles are coming in most of the time. You kind of want, usually I bring a heavy AT gun or something in B phase. I bring in this one for A, but for the most part, you want to bring one in a later phase. And that's just it. AA is a must have. You should try to bring in A, B, and C if you can. You just need it. It's a guarantee. Artillery, can't go wrong with artillery, honestly. Mortars, I'd say if you're playing a team game, you want to bring every single one of your heavy artillery pieces in the late game. And for with few exceptions, because there are exceptions, because there's so many different decks, you want to bring mortars and other stuff in the earlier phases. Aircraft, you're playing a team game. You want to have a lot of aircraft. Bring them out and see in late game. If you're playing a 1v1, 2v2, again, it's the opposite. It's kind of like if you're playing a 1v1 and 2v2, it's favored for early game. And if you're playing a 3v3, 4v4, and 10v10, it's favored for the late game. So you always want to have this mentality. Recon's the thing that I'm going to tell you the most about right now. Okay. Do not bring Recon without a purpose. For example, these guys here, like, you don't need, this is my view, you don't need off-Claire, you don't need these Recon units. What do they do? Like, just throw an Urzat out there in the open and they'll spot everything for you. You want to bring stuff that actually do something. Like an SB Armored Car, for example, just annihilates infantry. This is really good. This Panzer III has APCR, has 150 penetration. It's a freaking beast. This has Panzer IV. This has an assault gun. I'm bringing these for radios. These things carry radios, which is super, super good. You can hide them in good spots and they can just get radios. Radios give you corrected shot. That'll be another video for another time, but corrected shot means that anything with this little emblem here, see this little emblem here on my mouse, means that if they're within the radius of the radio, that they can shoot more accurately, which is super key for the German side because they have a lot of radio equipment. Oh, yeah, and the most important thing is you have to bring defenses. Let's actually not look at this deck for defenses. I know everybody keeps telling me defenses are stupid, but you know what? You're wrong. It's actually the meta to be the best player. If you're playing defenses, bring 2 AT guns, bring MG42s. Do not bring 37 mils. Bring a trench. Bring barbed wire. Do not build gun pits. Gun pits are just targets to open up and die. And if you don't bring them, you're trash. If you're one of those players who their whole deck's cleaned up and then the defenses is empty, you know what? You're less than human. Like, it's just, come on, guys. You fill out the deck, just do it. And anyway, there's tons of exceptions because different decks are designed for different things. So you're just going to have to look at it, make your best decision, but you just need some basic stuff. Like, you should always have medium tanks in, an A and B, or, should always have line infantry in every phase. Stuff like that's just key to have. But again, I think most gameplay comes down to finding out what you're good at and adapting it to your deck, and then being able to micro it effectively. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. I hope this is helpful a little bit. If not, tell me I'm trash, but you're wrong. Join the Discord, guys, if you want actually to get some decks and get some help, because there's a lot of guys in there with a lot of experience. It's in the description. I'll leave a like, leave a comment. I'll see you guys around.